Hey everyone, I'm Isabel, alcoholic. Good to be here. And my first time at this meeting. I love the name 5D. Um, when I was in a meeting I'm living in DC right now. I'm from DC, but my home group's in Boston, where I met Nick. And I was in a meeting with like three guys. I think it was a men's meeting. I didn't know, in the basement of a church on Newbury Street. And anyways, the topic was the fourth dimension, right? Yeah, the fourth dimension. And I thought it was like breaking the wall, like breaking the fourth or the third wall in theater. I don't know. I think that's a thing. Like when I was watching a lot of what's her name? Fleabag, when she breaks the fourth wall or the third wall and she like talks directly to the camera or to the audience. Anyways, that's the only thing I thought of for the fourth dimension. I didn't get the reference from the book, from the big book. But yeah, anyway, so my name is Isabel. I'm an alcoholic. I grew up, um, pretty stable house. Parents split up when I was a kid. Um, I started drinking around 15, 14, 15. And my high school was like a pretty big drinking school, I guess. We'd pregame a lot. Well, so I went to high school in Maryland, and it was really hard to get like to use a fake ID at the bars in DC and Maryland. So we would just like pregame everywhere. Um, so that's how I learned to drink, was just like under a Metro and out of a Gatorade bottle. Uh, and yeah, since the beginning, you know, like the first moment when I felt like I've arrived was pre-gaming for some concert, and with a bunch of people that I felt kind of insecure around. And it just seemed like the more shots I took, like the direct equivalent or correlation to how good I felt and like how confident and popular and like, yeah, I just felt like this is it. Um, and yeah, and I was a blackout drinker and a binge drinker, and was going to school hungover or drunk in the mornings. Um, Not all the time, but like, you know, anyways, college, big procrastinator. I had a good time, but I kept thinking I would learn how to drink, like learn how to handle my alcohol. Um, and I never really did. um, and I think like the impact it had on my family, I didn't really realize at the time, but looking back, my mom said when I was still probably like 17, um, she like sat me down after I'd, thrown a couple parties and didn't ask her. And she just looked at me and she just said, like, I don't trust you. And I was sitting in this bed right here. It's like my childhood bed. And I'll remember it so well. And I was like shocked, despite like lying to her face, lying about everything. I didn't even know I was lying when it came out of my mouth. Um, and I was just so insulted that she said she didn't trust me. Um, so sorry, one second, I'm gonna turn off. So yeah, I was, I managed to graduate college and I was living in South Africa. And I had this cool, job, but I couldn't show up for it. Like my dream job, and I just could not like be present at work. And I would get on the taxi after I left, and like I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't know what stop or like where I was going to get off. And I often got off at the liquor store and I'd be standing in the aisle like, how did I get here? And I generally just like wasn't reaching out to people, and all my friends are people I drank with. And I was drinking against my own will at that point. Like like, I'd slept 2 hours. I had my office over for like a barbecue and I said, I'm not gonna drink and I'm not gonna drink. And like before I knew it, I was blacked out. Um, so anyways, I found a 12-step program. I also struggle with an eating disorder. And that was what I thought was like the source of my problems, right? I didn't eat enough, and that's why I got so drunk. And that's why I'm miserable and I hate myself. So I found this 12-step program for my eating disorder, and um, it seems like everyone there had gone to treatment for it. So I went to treatment, and there I didn't know it was also like a rehab. I didn't know you couldn't drink in residential treatment. So my last drink, was the night before. Um, and yeah, and when I was there, they told me like, you should probably go to AA. And we didn't have to go, but I started going and um, I liked the people there, and it felt like the first time I could really breathe. Like yeah, later I was told, like people who continuously go to AA meetings, like normal people don't just keep going to AA. Like normal people don't like have a really good time at AA meetings. But I didn't think I was an alcoholic at all. And I kept going. People said, like, look, just try it for a year. And if after a year you want to go back out, like alcohol will still be there. And so I said, okay, I'll try it for a year. And I was like really hung up on this idea. Am I an alcoholic or not? Like, am I a real alcoholic? Um, and and nobody would tell me, which was so frustrating. But and I was going to the library getting like the Michigan alcohol some test, and like I really wanted someone to tell me. But I kept going to meetings, and I really identified with this idea that like I can't drink in safety. Like I 100% could agree with that. Um, and so I got a sponsor and like worked the steps buffet style, like the pieces that I wanted. I told her how I was going to do my fifth step. Um, that didn't work so well. I never went back to her after the fifth step. But I kept going to meetings, which is I think what just like kept me um, abstinent, I guess, from alcohol for the first year. And I would go to meetings, and my friend told me, just like raise your hand and just say, I need friends, because I moved around a lot in the first year. And so I would do that. I would just show up and be like I'm new, I need friends. And it worked. And this is like the only place that I've ever done that when it worked. and and yeah, I stuck with people. Finally got a sponsor, like for real, when I was in Boston. And she had me, I definitely began to agree that I had I had this disease. It helped when we talked about like, she told me she was dying from this disease, and I didn't really agree with that for me. But then she pointed out examples, have you ever got like, you know, thrown up in the middle of the night when you were passed out? I was like, oh my God, like every weekend. And she's like, well, you could have done that and not woken up, and then you would have choked on your own vomit and like had to go to the hospital, and you could have died. And I didn't really put two and two together. Or she'd be like, do you ever drink, drink and drive? And I'm like, yep. She's like, well, you could have gotten a crash and killed somebody else, God forbid. So anyways, I really began to identify with that. And at first AA was my higher power. I did connect with like nature and music. I love music. And that was part of my higher power too. For step 3, she had me sitting in Cafe Nero. We were going to do it in some beautiful church or like park or something, but it was raining. So we're sitting in Cafe Nero, holding hands and saying the third step prayer. And I was kind of mortified. But I did it. And what I really liked about step 3, she had me, I forget what page, but as it says in the book, like, think about what my life or my day would look like if like God was my director and I was, his actor, and if God were my father and I was like the perfect, or God were like the perfect father and I were the perfect child. Um, and God were the perfect director. And I did that and was like, wow, like life could be so much easier. Like if I just I had more time in between things during the day. I kind of just showed up to places and like was more calm. I didn't have a lot of expectations in this, visual, not immediately. But anyways, I have to remember that visual because I can get really caught up in like what's God's will for me. Thinking about step 11, we only pray for like to know his will and the power to carry it out. And I can get so caught up in like, okay, what is the perfect career for me? Like, what is my next job move? Um, and I really want an answer to strike me down. And I really like this chalk talk. James Martin, I think his name is. He says like, people talk about being like, get out. I had to get out of the driver's seat and like let God take over. And he's like, please don't do that. You will crash, like you will die. Like God is my GPS. And I really like that analogy. Like I have to actually put my foot on the gas and drive. And God just gives me direction. So I like good orderly direction. I need direction. I am a mess without some kind of structure. Um, and and anyways, what this priest, James Martin was saying was like, God doesn't really care what I do for work, like or who I date. It just like God's will for me is like to stay sober, and I agree with that. Everything else kind of follows after that. Um, so yeah, so I don't fret too much, or I try not to about, you know, still have a hard time with the next right thing, and I have a hard time consulting with others. Um, I like to think that I know what my sponsor would say, so I don't have to call her, which I think that's going to be my topic. I don't know if I get to pick a topic. Question mark. I'll wait till the end. Step 4, I like dragged my feet, waited. It took me like 7, 8 months. It was horrible. Finally got some relief on step 5. Um, and step 6 and 7, I wanted to like pick which defect I was going to work through, and I was kind of bummed to learn that that's not how it works. But like we lose them when it's the right time, I guess. I had to look up what esteemable acts were. Everyone was talking in this meeting about esteemable acts on step 7, and I had no idea what that was. And if anyone else doesn't know, it's just like doing good things, I think, like, doing service, basically. I remember reading this list of esteemable acts, and I was just like, oh, it's just service, essentially. So I love that AA gives me like really clear directions. And steps 8 and 9, the people that I thought would be like, I procrastinated the most and thought were like the most scary to do, like my friend's dad, who I threw up all over his carpet in like 11th grade. Those were like the most, I don't know, comforting and like surprising conversations. He told me like, yeah, he's just like, I really want the best for you. And it was, yeah, like I had no idea. And the other conversations that I thought would be really, crazy were like with my dad. We're just like, oh, you're fine. So again, I have no control. And what else do I want to say? Step 10, I need to do my inventory more regularly. When I do, life is, again, a lot easier. My emotions are more trackable. Um, and I sponsor other women today. I'm available to sponsor. And I pray and meditate in the morning and in the evening and try to do it throughout the day. That's my time. That's 15 minutes. I guess I'll just wrap up by saying like life is a lot easier today. I'm not sane. Like I have a lot of other acronyms. And like last week I was just like could not stop crying. I think it was last Tuesday, maybe. It was last Tuesday. It was horrible. And you know, I really felt like back when I was in sober living and I was pulling my hair out, like fully clothed in the bathtub on New Year's Eve, like a crazy person, not talking to anyone. But, you know, like that happens some days. And I have tools and I hopped on a meeting and I didn't share, but I listened. Um, and I'm so grateful that even when I don't want it, AA is here. Um, and it's in my head. And yeah, and I don't want to drink today. I have a good relationship with my mom and my dad. Um, I always need more friends. So if anybody in DC wants to link up, I'm vaccinated. We could get coffee. And yeah, I think that is all. Thanks so much, Nick, for asking me to share. It's good to be here.